The Inner Geekdom is through round one. Nick Scarpino tries to produce a W in the teams division. The boss is back, and who the hell is Matt Cruz? The rundown starts right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frank Janisch, and the host of the Schmoedown Rundown, Brad Gilmore.
Oh, hi-oh! What's up, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? Welcome to the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown from the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. I am Brad Gilmore, joined in Chicago by my guy, Frank Janisch. Frank, how you going?
It's going pretty good. It's a busy week for the Schmoedown. We had every league aside from Star Wars competing this week, so a lot of good matches. It was a good week for the Schmoedown.
It was a great week for the Schmoedown. There was a lot of great matches, and I'm going to talk about what is going to be my contender for match of the year. It might not win, but it's a contender as far as I'm concerned. And there's so much stuff going on, Janisch. You know, I'm a little thrown, to be honest with you, to start this off because you just took a shot at my Houston Rockets before we started recording, and I just can't get it off my brain. But who knows? Carmelo Anthony might show up on the Houston Rockets this year. It's very don't Carmelo. He was what 23. He averaged 23 points a game on 43% shooting. That's almost as good as Paul George. I will take Carmelo Anthony added to our roster. We lost Trevor Ariza, but if someone wants to pay $15 million for him, so be it.
Hey, Carmelo's done. That's all I'm saying.
No, he's not. And how did the Bulls do in free agency?
I don't know. I'm not gonna pay attention to them for like another couple years, but yeah.
The rebuild's going great, isn't it?
The rebuild of the rebuild. It seems like
the rebuild.
Yeah,
of the rebuild.
Yeah.
Joining us from Pennsylvania, my man Chris Clark, producer extraordinaire. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. You guys have a busy freaking week ahead of you. I'm interested to see how you cover all this stuff because
me too.
Let me just say, I know, I'm interested. I don't know how this building's going to burn or if it's going to crumble, or if it's going to be amazing. So good luck, guys. YOLO. It's going to be great.
Chris just said YOLO. He's slowly learning his rap references.
Yeah. Is that still a reference, though? I mean,
well, Drizzy Drake started it off. So before we go any further, though, we have a Patreon recipient, a Patreon giveaway recipient we need to get to. So this recipient, the recipient this month, is a man with my favorite, this is my favorite name I've ever heard in my life, Pablo Machado. Pablo Machado, you will receive an autographed photo of Tom Dagnino, Josh McCouga, and Emma Pye from the post-match interview where the mega powers collided and broke up. That is what you will be receiving. Congratulations to the Patreon recipient, Mr. Pablo Machado.
That's a great get in the giveaway, man. That's a good one.
That's a piece, you know. That's a nice piece to display in your house. It's better than what you'll find in a Cracker Jack box.
But there ain't no Coupe de Ville hiding at the bottom of a Cracker Jack box.
I got to be honest with you. I found someone gave me a Cracker Jack box today.
Today?
Today.
Wow.
Today. I have a Cracker Jack box in the other room over there, and I open it up. I'm excited. I'm like, you know what? I want a prize. I haven't had a Cracker Jack box in maybe ever. So I opened it up, and it was a sticker. A sticker. I wanted a decoder ring or something like that.
Decoder? Yeah. Isn't it for Ovaltine, I think?
What the hell ever. Give me a mood ring. Yeah. I'll accept any kind of circular jewelry. I'll take it all. Just give it to me. But I was very let down. But congratulations to Pablo Machado. You're this month's recipient for the Patreon giveaway and the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. Frank Janisch, we had 3 matches this week. This is one of those rare weeks where there's, like you said, almost every single division was represented this week. Aside from Star Wars, you had teams, singles, and Inner Geekdom. This Inner Geekdom tournament, I'm going to be honest with you, Inner Geekdom has never been my favorite of all leagues. just because I think it gets a little too deep dive for me.
Sure.
But this tournament has definitely turned me around because I think we've seen a lot of great matches in the tournament and a lot of new faces that we really think could be something. I know we talked about a few of those names over the last couple of weeks, and I think this week it was actually a more of a competitive match than I thought that we were going to get when it started off, and that's between Rosie Knight and Marchi. It was a fun match. There was definitely some of these moments, but overall, I think that they delivered. What did you think of our Inner Geekdom match to round up the first round here?
Yeah, with Keaton Marchi and Rosie Knight, Keaton debuted early on in the season. I think it was that first Fatal 5-Way. And didn't do... She did okay. And so I was looking forward to seeing her back because it seemed like that the stage, the lights, the countdown, all that stuff kind of played a factor into her nerves or her play. So I was curious to see her come back for a second time, see how she would respond. As we all know, she won the match, obviously. And I think overall she did improve upon her first appearance. But she still has some work to do, as all competitors usually do. But I was excited to see Keaton bounce back in a positive way. And for Rosie Knight, didn't really know what to expect. Seen her on Jedi Council. She writes about Star Wars and all that stuff. And, Christian talks about, she's from Jedi Council. And so Star Wars should be a strength, although we'll get into that a little bit later. But it's one of these unknown people, again, this season. We're like in the lower teens at this point with like new debuting players in the Inner Geekdom this year, which is pretty insane. With Mara and... Keaton again, obviously debuted earlier this year, and so Rosie joins the long list. Sean Gerber, a ton of other people. So it's going to be interesting because it's almost like seeing two new people again. Because the first one the first appearance I kind of give a pass on depending how they play. So it was good to see that this was in fact a pretty competitive match for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, in round one, there was a couple of, like I said, just kind of like, oh wow, I can't believe someone would miss that question. It was there was a Back to the Future question, wasn't there? That they both missed.
Yeah, the last question was, I have that somewhere. It is what does Marty McFly hate to be called? Not the exact wording.
Yeah.
But man, that's kind of a stunner. It's kind of a stunner. To not know that he didn't like being called chicken. Yeah.
Let me just stop you there. So, I can't remember the answers they gave, but like I think someone said dad. Someone doesn't.
I don't remember.
I think that was Rosie Knight or something.
Daddy-o.
Daddy-o. But like, what would they? I mean, why would someone be upset about being called dad? And what could be the possible thing somebody?
It's not my kid. That's
Is that what Drake said?
No, that's
hi-oh. But what could you possibly be called besides chicken? But I wonder, here's the thing though.
Yeah.
He was just called chicken, I think, in Back to the Future 2. Because in Back to the Future 3 he was called Yellow.
Yeah. Well,
I wonder if Yellow would have been a correct answer.
That's an interesting one. I mean, I think they specified in Back to the Future, they didn't say which part. So by not specifying which part, that automatically you would assume it's the first part, Back to the Future. So if you had said Yellow, I think that would be wrong. Although you could challenge, were they specifying it was only the first movie, or or it was throughout the entire franchise?
Well, Janisch, I know you like to think that you're up on Back to the Future and stuff like that, but Marty McFly wasn't called chicken in Back to the Future 1. It didn't start till Back to the Future Part 2. Just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. If you're gonna challenge me to a match, you better do your history, son. I have the history of Hill Valley, 1885 to 1985. So you better do your research there. But I think that was just kind of a glaring miss. But we've talked about one of the worst answers of all time, Fruit of the Loom, on this show before. So
yeah.
Round one. I think they were tied almost going into round number 2.
They were exactly tied at 7 apiece. But what was interesting about this match as well, to start off even, was kind of these jabs back and forth. It's kind of like the attitude towards one another. Keaton was saying, to Rosie, this ain't, as easy as it looks. I've been here and I've done it. Rosie coming in very dismissive of the league, kind of on the school of the Kalinowski side of things. Very nonchalant, this thing is rigged. So it was interesting to go through this round. And they're all tied up at 7, which is a good round for Marchi. She had 4 in her debut, so she gets 7 here. That's a nice improvement. And Rosie Knight, 7 points here. That's a great debut for a rookie. So this really set things up in my mind that we could have a really high-scoring match here, possibly, depending on what happens in the second round, obviously. But the potential was there for sure.
Second round comes around. Rosie Knight goes up there to spin.
Yeah.
And after a little jabs back and forth too, and some trickery as to who was going to go first, which I did enjoy.
Keaton getting a little sly there with
Rosie.
Rosie.
She brought it there. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Who do you want to go first? She wants. Oh, you want me? Okay, you can go first.
It was great. It was great.
I did like that. But Rosie Knight goes up there and she, has been on Jedi Council. She was writes Star Wars, writes all kinds of stuff for Star Wars, and she goes up there and spins Star Wars. Doesn't hesitate. She takes it.
Yeah.
And doesn't have the greatest performance of all time when it came to Star Wars. I would like to think it was probably definitely left something to be desired.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to it, and this is not Mark Donica didn't have as bad as a Star Wars round as Rosie did here, but we were talking with Mark last week. You run or part of a Star Wars podcast, and you get Star Wars, and he's averaging like 50-something% in Star Wars. Like it should be his thing, and it just doesn't go that way. Same can be said for Emma with Harry Potter. Just doesn't go your way sometimes. And it's interesting when a player gets a particular strength, and this we will revisit this in the team match as well. You don't always do as well as everyone thinks you should because it's on your list of strengths that Star Wars is your strength. So if you get it, you're gonna go 5 of 6, 6 of 6, whatever. That's not what happened here. She got 1 of 6, and my lord, that's even with the knowledge that this may not go the way you think. That's an inadvertent quote of Luke Skywalker, The Last Jedi. Sorry. This was pretty stunning. Also, she only went to multiple choice on the last question. She didn't go to multiple choice on any of the previous questions, which I think you might be able to attribute to her being a rookie. Not fully understanding or remembering the rules throughout the match. So, because we'll look at Keaton and she takes full advantage of that. But Rosie getting 2 points here. It looked like Keaton was in prime position to pull away if she gets the right category on her spin.
But as not so good, you could say, as Rosie Knight did. When it was Keaton's turn, she spins first. She gets DCEU, which she reviled at. She was disgusted by even the thought of the DCEU, as a lot of DC fans are and Marvel fans alike. And she goes to spin again because she was trying to get that Harry Potter category, as was pointed out. Good strength of hers. She knew that she could really rock it, as Chris Clark might say. And she ends up getting opponent's choice.
Yeah.
After she spins it again. And I thought, as I always do, I'm such a flip-flopper in these matches. If opponent's choice or spinner's choice ever comes up, I'm always like, oh, well, they won. And I thought for sure Rosie Knight was going to win this match after getting opponent's choice and going with the DCEU.
It's funny you bring that up, that point. At the end of the match, I got some numbers on opponents and spinner's choice for you. So remind me of that.
Okay, we'll get to it. But I thought that she was going to really put her away. Yeah. And Rosie Knight, she fared pretty well. I think she got, an additional what,
I mean,
5
Keaton.
points?
Keaton.
I mean, Keaton. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Keaton,
yeah.
yeah. Keaton Markey did real well. I think she got an additional 5 or 6 points, I think, in the DCEU.
Yeah, she got 4
And-
points on the DCU.
4 points.
Yeah.
And then got the 2 steals from the Star Wars. And did pretty well. She made it out of the round up 3 going into round number 3.
Yeah.
Which is a nice lead. It's not a insurmountable hill for Rosie Knight to climb, but it's a nice lead for Keaton Markey, and I'm sure she felt pretty confident after that, getting an additional 4 points to her total. So round 2 could have gone really. I mean, honestly, if you would have said before this match, knowing that Rosie Knight's strength is Star Wars, and then knowing that she's going to get opponent's choice for Keaton Markey,
Yeah.
you would have thought, oh, why do I even need to watch the match?
Yeah.
There's no point in even watching the match. And it was anything but that. It was really surprising how that round 2, make or break, it could have gone her way. Just really didn't in that round 2. But let's get to these stats real quick. I want to know about these before we go to the final round. What are the stats on opponent's choice and spinner's choice?
Yeah, I was curious to see how people do with spinners and opponent's choice, and so I took a good, probably like, let's just say longer than I would like to admit about putting this thing together here. Just through the Inner Geekdom, I looked at the Inner Geekdom first, and then I did go into the singles league and looked all that. But for Inner Geekdom, Keaton Markey is the only player in the Inner Geekdom to get opponent's choice and walk away with the win. 4 other people have gotten opponent's choice, and those 4 people have lost. When you get spinner's choice in Inner Geekdom, you are 4-2. So 2 people have lost getting spinner's choice on the wheel, but 4 times they have won. Now looking overall, singles. Let's put up the singles numbers here. For singles, you're 11-10 when you get spinner's choice. When you get opponent's choice in singles, you're 3-11. So Keaton Markey is only the 4th player ever between Inner Geekdom and singles competition.
Singles.
4th player ever to get opponent's choice and walk away with a win. So you're in some rarefied air to get.
But I'm a little shocked that spinner's choice is almost 50-50.
It is really close. It is kind of shocking that it would go that way. It is interesting.
Think that the margin would be. I mean, just like for opponent's choice,
you would think
like
be
margin,
reversed. Yeah, flip.
Yeah, you would think you think they'd be the same over both of them. Like spinners would have a high yielding winning percentage, and opponent's choice would lose more often. But I'm really shocked that spinner's choice might not be the greatest thing that could come up there. And I wonder if that's because you think. It's like one of those things, like you think you know the category so well, so you go for it, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know anything about what you're asking. I know, other things, but not about what you're asking specifically, and you underperform on a category that you thought you would overachieve at. So that's a really interesting stat.
And I went back and I went separated year by year. 2016 when it came over to Collider, I didn't count 2014 because they did not have that. I'm fairly certain because they just picked up a hat. 2016 opponent's choice, the rate at which we landed on these wedges is not as high as it is today, especially for 2016. Opponent's choice was only landed on twice in 2016, and spinner's choice was only landed on 3 times in 2016. The next year, 2017, opponent's choice was landed on 9 times, and then spinner's choice was landed on 10. And as of right now, 2018, this is just singles. Opponent's choice was landed on 3 times. Spinner's choice is landed on 8 times. So we're approaching 2017 levels already, and we're just at the halfway or a little past halfway in the season already. So there's a quite an uptick in landing on these wedges now.
Wow, that's really crazy stats. Crazy stats. Well, let's go into round number 3. Round number 3, Keaton Markey had the lead 13-10. We go to Rosie Knight. For her first question was from the DCEU. Floyd Londrin is the real name of what Suicide Squad member? Almost messed that one up. Her name is, she said Killer Croc. The answer was Will Smith's character Deadshot.
I thought that was a very guessable answer, even if, just pick up, who's the most, besides Margot Robbie. It's not Margot Robbie because it's Floyd Lawton's the name. But I thought it was a very guessable 2-pointer.
it seems like it would be.
Yeah.
You know what though? If you had to narrow it down, it seems like it would be Deadshot or Killer Croc.
I suppose you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it just sounds like it could be one of their names. So I mean, those are probably the two best guesses you could have gone for. Because Jai Courtney's character, I don't remember what his character's name is. The one that had the unicorn. What's his name? I don't even remember. But he's from Australia. And Floyd Lawton. I'm sorry, Lawton. I said Laundren. Floyd Lawton.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like he's from Australia. So moving right along, question number 2 was in Star Wars.
Yeah.
What planet's landmarks include the North Ridge? Did she say Tatooine?
She said Tatooine, and here's why I think she said Tatooine, because there is a quote very early on in the movie. Lars, Owen rather, he says in the morning. He's talking to Luke. He says in the morning I want them on the South Ridge, working on those condensers. So you hear South Ridge, you might think, well, North Ridge could have been. You could have got it flipped with Tatooine and Hoth. So
well, you would think though, if there's a South Ridge,
right? What I'm saying
Tatooine,
is that he could have said North Ridge and A New Hope.
Yeah,
So that's where you're thinking Tatooine. But I can see that one. Although the North Ridge one, my mind immediately went to Empire Strikes Back, but so that would be Hoth. But yeah. That's kind of a tough one. It's a pretty solid 3-point question.
It's a solid 3-point question, but once again, I think when your strength is supposed to be Star Wars, it should be maybe more of a 1 point in your mind. But then we go into question number 3 was villains. Who played Yoriko, a.k.a. Lady Deathstrike in X2 X-Men United? A 5-point question in Inner Geekdom if I've ever heard one.
This is
definitely have seen her face. I saw her face, knew exactly who she was, had no idea of the name. What I found interesting here, though, is Rosie Knight never really gave an official answer.
No, she didn't. She said, this is rigged. And
this is rigged. And then Christian just was like,
yeah, he's right. Like, all right, that's enough of this. Yeah. But that is a great 5-point question because the actress is Kelly Hu, and can you name me something else she's been in? I know she's done a lot of television work, but TV or movies are. That's a pretty good question. That's a pretty good question.
I think that's a solid 5-point question if I've ever heard one. In the Inner Geekdom, I think that would be like a 10-point question in the singles league. I mean, that's a really deep pull.
Yeah.
That you're gonna have to bring up there. So Keaton Marchi wins in the Inner Geekdom League in her singles debut, really, in the Inner Geekdom, and a one-on-one debut for both of these women. And, I think that Rosie Knight has some promise. I think Keaton, though, has a lot of personality. Makes you want to root for her. And she did okay. We didn't even get to see her go in round 3.
Yeah.
Who could have known? She could have walked out of this thing 23-10 or what have you. You know what I mean? She could have really performed well in that round 3. Didn't get an opportunity to, but that was probably a good thing. She ends up winning the match via TKO.
Yeah, this is the 6th straight match now in the first round. 6 of the 8 matches that have been decided by TKO or KO. The KO is coming against Jared Haben and Markia McCarty. The others are TKO, including this one. So it's interesting because when we talked to Mark last week, the real tournament, if you will, not to discount or discredit anyone who played in the first round, but these people who have won by TKO or KO are going to go up against some big names in the second round, which we've gotten, which we do now know that actually through this match that the winner here, Keaton Marchi, is going to be playing Emma Fyfe in the second round. That was announced throughout the match, which is a very interesting development because that means, if I'm doing the math right, Adam Klavick is going to play Mark Knopik in the second round because you have Rachel Cushing playing Eric Zipper and you have Kalinowski playing Donica. I mean, those are some stacked, crazy matches for the second round.
Yeah, I know for sure that we got some heavy hitters going into round 2.
You might not have that if Kalinowski messes things up again. You never know because it could be corrupted.
It could be, but I think I know this one. I think these ones are pretty sure things. I think so. I mean, because you're right, Chris. Kalinowski could come in at the last second and go, I don't think so. Maybe he doesn't play Donica. Maybe he plays Keaton. I don't know. You're right. You're right.
I'm not. I still think that Mike Kalinowski is going to end up in the finals of this tournament, come hell or high water.
Well, he's got right as of right now. He's got to get past Donica, and that's no small feat.
That's definitely no small feat. Frank, was there anything else regarding this match that you'd like to cover before we move on?
I think actually we should talk about the cutscene beforehand, before the match started. It was Emma. She's talking to Sam Witwer on the phone, and he's saying, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I got.
We're assuming that's what he's saying.
Right. Well, I mean, she does go into Thad saying he's booked a couple jobs, and he's not gonna be available for 3 to 4 months, and he's like, okay, I'll figure it out. But if he can come back for Spectacular, great, we'll do it then. And then we have the match, and now the post-match scene is Emma talking to Thad, right? And or is it? I think I'm combining both of them right now. But in any case, Emma and Thad do talk, and then Emma walks out, closes the door, and this might be one of my favorite cuts that these post-match scenes have showed. It's just Kalinowski right there in the corner, just nodding and smiling. He's like, this isn't how it's going to go. Here's what's going to happen. Sam's either going to show up and play, he's going to win or lose. Okay, fine. But if he doesn't, he gets stripped of the belt, and then that's how it's going to be. And so Thad has to run out like the little errand boy that he is to Kalinowski now and tell Emma this. And she's confused. She's like, do you have multiple personality disorder or whatever, blah, 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 which I can completely believe at this point if you're Emma. But we all know that Kalinowski's pulling the strings here. So the stipulation that Sam doesn't show up, he gets stripped of the belt. Now this bleeds into the real world aspect that Sam is in fact he can't make a schedule. And we knew this a couple weeks ago. Christian announced it, so now they're just integrating real life into the storyline, and I think they're doing it in a pretty fun and clever way, tying it in with the corruption, the whole Kalinowski storyline.
Yeah, I think that this is being done beautifully.
Yeah,
I mean, I so much enjoy Mike Kalinowski right now. I think this is the exact thing that needed to happen for him. I think that his losses early on in the season set this up beautifully. And they had something really great kind of, I don't want to say fall into their lap, but all the stars aligned perfectly for this to be played out. I think this is probably the greatest storyline I think they've come up with.
Oh, yeah.
It's being played out over a long period of time. And I've tried to figure out what the payoff's going to be. I've speculated as what the payoff's going to be. I've tried to press Christian, even on this show, asking him, what do you think is, Mike Kalinowski's blackmailing Thad with? I still have no earthly idea. But I really am enjoying the process of finding out.
Yeah, and I know some people are getting a little restless about where is this storyline going, and it's like...
That's why people suck, Janisch.
I just don't understand. People
suck.
Like we need to have this wrapped up in like 2 or 3 episodes. Like, why can't it drag out for 2, 3, 4 months or the whole year and just have fun with it? And I'm having a lot of fun with the puppet strings Kalinowski is pulling here. Maybe you get tired of it, maybe you don't. And if you do, that's fine, I guess. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. I know a lot of other people are enjoying this storyline of Kalinowski. He's playing this part perfectly to perfection. Him and Thad, it's a really fun dynamic between those two. I mean, we looked at that one scene where you could tell there had been multiple takes because they looked like they were trying to laugh throughout, trying not to laugh throughout the entire scene about Kalinowski telling them to write down this and that, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And I know people comment, oh, these actors suck, they can't act. I'm like, I'm sorry, were you expecting Oscar quality acting? Not to pass judgment on Kalinowski or Thad. They're just having fun with these scenes, and that's all you can really expect, right?
Come on now.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Mike is actually an actor and he has a lot of experience, but this isn't meant to be like the most, dramatic piece
Right.
of,
Exactly.
of cinematography
Right.
and film that we're going to see. It's just supposed to be,
All-
it's like a pro wrestling show.
Although when you look at Kalinowski and the breakup with the league and Johnny Quasso, that whole stuff, that was fantastic. I mean, that's
for
high
sure.
quality stuff right there. But then you're going to get some of these fun moments with Thad and Kalinowski in the office, and it's a skit. It's a bunch of people, a bunch of friends getting together, having a good time, and putting on some entertainment for everybody out there for free. So,
Janisch, we also got to talk about something interesting that happened in one of these post-match interviews. I said it at the top of the show. Janisch, who the hell is Matt Cruz?
It's funny. I was at Collider a little while ago. I actually ran into this guy, Matt Cruz, and I talked to him for a little bit. It was him and his buddy. I forget his other buddy's name. Sorry. And he'd mentioned that he did like an audition with Christian over Skype and stuff, and it's like, oh, that's really cool, and hopefully it worked out. And he thinks he did pretty well, during it. I forgot how it went, or I know it went well. Obviously, went well for Matt Cruz. He's now got to challenge his Rosie Knight to a match here. But I talked to the guy. He seemed pretty fun, and then I see him pop up like this, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know this guy. I talked to him for like a few minutes, and. He did he went through the Patreon route of the Skype audition with Christian. Went really well, and now here he is getting a shot at the Schmoedown. A patron getting a shot at the Schmoedown. That's what was the plan through the Patreon on those specific tiers for that. And here we are, a few months later, after the Patreon's been rolling since February. Now we're here in July, so it's taken a little bit, but it just goes to show you that if you do sign up for that tier, the possibility is very real, and it materialized here for Matt Cruz, and it's really exciting as a fan, as a viewer of the Schmoedown to see this actually happen, because I know there are a lot of people out there that would love to get a crack at the Schmoedown, and this is the way you're going to have to go about it for now, at least, it seems. And Matt Cruz, he is the first... I guess you could point towards Late to the Party as being the first fans, but Matt Cruz, I think, a guy who just kind of came out of nowhere because Late to the Party had a channel and all that stuff, which is great. But Matt Cruz, nobody really knew of him or knows of him. Patron, signed up. Here he is, challenging Rosie Knight to a match, and she accepted.
Booker always talks about like guys breaking into wrestling, and he says, you don't find the business finds you, right? And I think he says that to mean everybody's path is different. Not everyone has the same exact, this is what you got to do, go to wrestling school, train for 2 years, you wrestle on the independent for a year, and then you get signed by WWE. Like, everyone has a different path. Yeah. And for Matt Cruz, this was his path, and his path was through the Patreon. And, shout out to the guys for making that even a possibility, having the wherewithal of saying, hey, in this fan-supported, space, we could actually find some new talent, and that's what they did with Matt Cruz. And I'm excited to see what he's actually got, because if Matt Cruz comes in here and he performs well, and he does well, that opens the door for more people who watch this show, for more people who watch the actual Schmoedown and comment online or are part of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Facebook group and are involved in the community. It opens the doors up even more. Like you saw with people like Late to the Party, or you've seen with Taylor, or you've seen with certain people.
Or Dale the Dude. Yeah.
Dale the Dude, Franco. You've seen these people come through as fans, and now here's another one in a different way than the other guys. I think this is good. This is good. I still don't know who the hell you are, Matt Cruz.
Yeah.
But hopefully you show me in your debut match. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Let's move along, though, Frank Janisch. Let's talk about the team match real quick. Kind of funny, which is Nick and Greg versus Funhaus, James and Elise. That was a very interesting match. Sorry, people are trying to walk up in here while I'm doing the show. That was a very interesting match. You seem to be higher on this match than I was. So why don't you lay it out for me, Janisch?
Man, I don't know if you have any sort of history watching Kind of Funny or Funhaus on YouTube. I don't have that much, but a little bit, enough to appreciate both of these teams, these individuals coming. Well, we've known Nick, but Greg, James, and Elise, I've known a little bit about them, and I was fortunate enough to be in studio for this match, and the whole match, the level of play is pretty good. Not the greatest, it's good, but the whole banter between both of them, it just really took this match to another level, and I'm glad it was a Patreon match, because I think if you're on the Patreon tier, and you saw this a week earlier, you were definitely rewarded with your pledge, because this is probably the best Patreon match they've had so far this year. Although Bakuga Scarpino is another good one. It's another great one.
Scarpino batting 2 for 2 here. Yeah,
that's true. He's a Patreon. He's in the Patreon circuit at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
But both of these, all of them. I mean, Greg. This guy. He's got this belt. I don't know what it's for.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out.
But it says Kind of Funny on it, and it's great. However, whatever you want it at Kind of Funny headquarters, I don't know. Okay. James and Elise from Funhaus, they do a lot of good video game. They talked about it in their pre-match video game comedic channel. Very funny over there, and I love their pre-interview stuff. Both pre-interview stuff. I mean, it was great, and it's very refreshing to get, because you have Wild Berries, you have the Kingsmen, yes, and it just seems like I don't want to throw Kind of Funny and Funhaus into the lower rung where it's like very heavy personality-based teams or individuals, and the trivia is kind of secondary. It kind of seems for both these teams it's kind of on an even playing field between personality and trivia strength. I think they mesh, or they're very balanced, I think. Although Wild Berries playing any one of these two teams would be great.
Would be the best.
Or, yeah, just anybody, really. But I really love this match a lot, just because it was a lot of fun to watch. The banter between both these teams, and Ken was great, and Brienne was at the desk for the first time in this match.
Shout out to Brienne. That's what I wanted to do. Shout out to Brienne. I do want to say, so sometimes, you know how, like a movie, right? In a movie, if the first 5 minutes doesn't grab you, like I watched Basic Instinct for the very first time this weekend, on July 4th, and that movie grabs you in the first second. Like, as soon as the movie starts, after the opening title credits.
Wait a minute. Your 4th of July movie was Basic Instinct? Does that sound right to you, Chris?
It doesn't. It doesn't sound right. It sounds very strange.
You should have seen,
allow me to explain. My girlfriend and I have a list of movies that we both have to watch. And I made a list for her. She made a list for me.
Very nice.
I had never seen Basic Instinct. We decided it rained in Houston. It flooded, actually, in Houston again, which we're now known for.
Yeah.
Well, at least one flood a year. And so we decided to watch one of the movies. And I'm not watching Brokeback Mountain or The Notebook. So I decided to watch Basic Instinct.
Those are good movies, Brad.
I know. I just think that they're just too chick flicky for me.
Okay.
They're too chick flicky for me. I'm not a chick flick guy, although I kind of like Mamma Mia. I'm going to be honest with you. I do. I enjoy Mamma Mia, but it's more of a musical than a chick flick. I digress. The movie grabs you within the first, 3 seconds. The first 3 seconds, Basic Instinct grabs you. And in this match, the promos were grabbing me. I was there. I was with it. And then the first question came. And the first question, I believe, was read by Brienne. Oh. And Brienne actually, so she reads the question. In what movie do you hear the quote, "You have to use your hands"? That's like a baby's toy. And Brienne actually halfway gives it away. I don't know if you picked up on this, but she turns to Ken, nice time travel thing, And I'm like, wait, hold on now. Is she giving it away here? And I'm not mishearing that, right? She said that, right?
It was part of the question with time travel.
The category was time travel.
No, it was in the question. It was like, what time travel movie?
The category was quotes. Yeah.
But in the question, it actually said time travel in it.
Okay, then I'm wrong. I thought she was just saying time travel movie. I'm like, well, Brienne.
But she does stop 2/3 of the way through the question, which was kind of weird. And then you have Greg saying, how smooth an operation Schmoedown runs. So, I mean, Greg was great throughout this entire match. His back and... First of all, hold on. We got to talk about Greg going ballistic on the audience when he comes out for his entrance. He's going after Roca. Said, who's that kind of funny? Is it kind of funny or not kind of funny? And being in the audience for that day, Roca was shouting some stuff, and you could hear Greg behind the curtain kind of, firing shots back, and then he finally comes out and then goes after Roca, and Ken makes mention of it as well. But it was just a lot of fun with Greg and the heel type personality basically that he was bringing into this match.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun. But back to my point.
Yeah.
When so many people got that one wrong.
James and Elise did not get it.
Did James say Toy Story 3?
Yes, I think so. Which is, and Brienne pointed out, that's a good guess because of toys. Toy Story 3. However...
But, why did he land on Toy Story 3?
Because that's like a baby's toy. It was in the quote, so I think he went to Toy Story as a educated guess. Although,
I know, Toy Story, I follow the train of thought. I'm just saying it's interesting that he landed on Toy Story 3. He could be
Toy Story?
Why not just Toy Story? No, I'm pretty sure this memorable quote was in the third part.
Could have said Small Soldiers, I don't know. But
Small Soldiers would have been a good one, too.
Yeah.
But Back to the Future Part 2. So I was kind of a little bit checked out. I'm like, come on, guys.
I
have two Back to the Future questions so far this week.
Yeah.
And people are underperforming on it. I am insulted. But anyway, we move on. What did you think, though? Just, I guess we can kind of broad scope it. What did you think of the level of play? Aside from just the antics and the jabs and the back and forth and the great characters, and I've talked about it before, not every match has to be, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker from WrestleMania 25 or Steamboat Savage from WrestleMania 3. You can have Doink the Clown in there every now and then and still have a fun match. What did you think, though, of the level of play here?
Well, yeah, Funhaus started off pretty slow. They only had 2 points through the first 3 questions, so not particularly great. And then you had Kind of Funny being perfect through the first 3. So I thought, well, at least it's funny. At least it's been funny. But Funhaus came back, and they ended up down just 3 points. Greg, he got 6 out of 8. Nick, 5 out of 8. And then James and Elise each both answered 4 correctly. So it was a slow start for Funhaus. And but then they picked it up there at the end. And Kind of Funny, I thought 11 points for a new team. I've always said you at least want to hit double digits coming out of the first round at the very least, and they got 11, and that shows a sign, I think, of a very competent team. And let's not forget, I know Nick Scarpino has no wins in singles, but he has played against some tough, staunch competition, and he's put up some pretty good numbers. He's so to see him get 5, which is an average number, but at least they came in with 11, so that means Greg is just as capable as Nick has been in the past, or at least that's what it seems like. So I thought Kind of Funny was going to have a good shot at winning this, just because Funhaus starts off slow, but they did pick it up, and second round stuff happens all the time, and you never know. But it was a damn entertaining first round because Greg I think he even shouted at Nick. Don't screw this for me. Don't screw this up for me. That's not, I don't think, exact words, but
something like that. Yeah.
yeah. No, it was fantastic.
What did you think of the what was the Tom Cruise stuff about?
Just I think fun thing to do. I just think I don't know if they do that previously on Funhaus stuff.
That's what I was wondering.
I don't recall seeing. Like I said, I only have very limited knowledge of what they do over there, so I don't know if that's a thing they've done before. But they clearly had a Tom Cruise face mask thing, paper thing, so it might be a thing. But I like that they kind of try to do something fun with it. Because a lot of new teams, they just kind of walk out there and sit down, and at least they put some thought into it. Like, hey, let's do some silly Tom Cruise thing. It's simple, but we got a mask, and we'll do the whole laugh thing and whatever. And yeah, it was fun.
What did you think of their both teams' second round performance?
Well, with kind of funny going first with video games, and I also want to say it seems like this match was kind of specifically tailored to them because we saw a movie release date question pertaining to
a video game movie,
the Street Fighter, and then we had a documentary category, which I don't think we've ever seen before, especially in the first round, which they all got was the King of Kong question. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then and now there's a video game slice on the wheel. I know people have wanted that category for a while. Now we finally get it here, and it's interesting that you get kind of fun. Or Funhaus at least is a comedic video game channel. So I kind of felt, and then Jim Henson slices on the wheel too, which is another new slice. So kind of felt like it was a little bit tailored for these two specific teams, which I'm okay with because it makes for a more competitive match, I think, in the end, which we did get here. And these will be categories that go on into the future of the Schmoedown matches and whatnot. So it was just interesting that they popped up here, and that's fine.
Are we sure about that? Is that confirmed?
I would like to think so. I mean, they made the wedge. I mean, might as well keep using it if you have that bank of questions available, although you would have to ask Skalisky and his team if they have more questions like that in the bank. But kind of funny, going 4 of 6 was very nice. And then for Funhaus, I love this turn by Funhaus because Elise basically takes the wheel here, and you see her husband James. I think like on the third question, he just takes like a nap mid-question, and because she's just rolling through these. At that point, she's 3 for 3, and she would go 4 of 6. She would miss on the last 2. Unfortunate, but it was a good rebound round for Funhaus to keep them within 3 going into that last round. So these two categories, video games and Jim Henson, definitely made the match even more competitive, aside from the great theatrics that they were already bringing.
I thought it was a coin toss going into round 3. A 3-point differential. We've seen people hold on to that lead just like we saw in the Rosie Knight Keaton-Marchi match. But you can easily lose it. You can easily lose that 3 points. Really, if they do their first 2 questions right and you miss your first 2 questions, now you're FUCKED'd.
Yeah.
I did that for the kids out there.
That's the, if you have a 3-point lead, that's like the magic number to have a lead with going to that final round, because it automatically means your opponent has to answer at least the first 2 questions correct, or at least it has to go through those to begin with just to get out of a 3-point deficit, because your first one is 2, and even though your second one is 3, you still have to hit it to send it back to your opponent. So a 3-point lead is, in my opinion, the magic number that you want to have ideally going into that last round. And Kind of Funny had it, and Marchi had it last match. So there you go.
So what did you think, though? Like you said, we talked about the 3-point advantage for them, but what did you think about how round 3 played out?
Yeah, Elise with the Tom Hanks question, the Toy Story, I thought it was a pretty fair, simple 2-pointer. But James missing on the Die Hard Argyle question, that one hurt because, Die Hard is such an iconic, not just an iconic action movie, a bro dude movie, if you will. And he even mentions in the post-match interview that he knew it, he just doesn't know, just didn't come to him in that time. It's one of those things, I guess, that a Schmoedown player can experience. It happens to the best of them. And then missing on the 90s question, which was blanking on what was the
it was I don't remember. I don't remember. Just like sometimes it happens in the Schmoedown.
Yeah.
You just don't remember. But I thought that this was, as much as I was checked out of it at first, go in this match, like I said, like when they missed the Back to the Future, I was a little turned off, admittedly. But toward the end, like really, there was a lot of good play here. There was a lot of good shines of light, of real depth of knowledge, and that round number 3, like I said, it was a coin flip. It really was, and it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. It turned out the way that it did. I mean, that's an all-time line. All-time line right there.
It turned out the way it did.
You're a real Joe Buck, yeah.
Well, it did. It turned out the way that it did, Frank Janisch.
But you know, the post match though, you get Funhaus saying that they want to come back and be a part of this in a larger capacity. Perhaps Inner Geekdom. Maybe we'll see them in another team match. I'm not sure. Although with them both coming back, James was talking about Elise knows a lot about Lord of the Rings, and he has some other strong suits. So I don't know if they're alluding to a team Inner Geekdom, which would be fascinating to see.
That would be interesting. I would like. It would
be interesting, but at the very least, I think we could see Elise and Inner Geekdom some point down the road, which would still be fun to see them both compete. I think they're a lot of fun, and because Brienne pointed out, they're local. They're right there in L.A. Kind of Funny's off in San Francisco, I believe. That's where they're based. So a lot easier for Funhaus to come over and have fun at Schmoedown, just because we're going to see Bruce Green, also part of that family, Funhaus, Rooster Teeth, all them. So I hope to see them back very, very soon.
Well, Janisch, I think we should move into what was, I think, the match of the week, and my early candidate, along with a couple other matches, for match of the year. You know, we've talked about Ethan Irwin and The Godfather. We've talked about the Team Top 10 versus Team Top That. Both fantastic matches. This is my third nomination. Okay. Is Ben Bateman versus Scott Mantz. This match, I honestly thought Bateman was going to really walk through this match, and then you forget about when Scott Mantz is on.
Yeah.
Scott Mantz is on, man, and he can really box with the best of them. He can throw punches in the center of the ring until you say, I don't want any more. I really enjoyed Scott Mantz, and he reminded me why when I first started watching the Schmoedown, and I kind of forgotten about it, Scott Mantz was one of my early favorites. Just the boisterous personality.
Yeah.
The unnecessary spouting out of movie facts and release dates.
Yeah.
Trying to get extra points.
Right.
You forget why he was so good by himself before Team Trek.
Yeah.
And this match, as crazy as it sounds, really put into perspective that I don't want Scott Mantz in teams. I want Scott Mantz in singles. I think this is actually, if he can play like he did this week, this is where he should be.
I think if you can play like this in singles, you should be able to do it in teams as well. So I don't think there's... Although, I mean, it is interesting when you look at Drew McWeeny, for example, who plays really well in teams, but he doesn't necessarily transfer over to singles. I guess the same thing could be happening here for Scott between singles and teams. Plays really well in singles, not so much in teams. It's very, very interesting. I don't think there's any good explanation for it, but I would be thrilled to see more of Mantz in the Schmoedown in general. If he wants to be in singles, I'm all for it. With him now having his movie review show at Collider, he will be there on a weekly basis now, so it does raise the possibility of him being a more frequent competitor, which is a very good thing for the Schmoedown, because the Schmoedown is a lot better off when Scott Mantz is involved. I think that's just a plain fact. So the more that we can have him in the Schmoedown, I'm all for it. But you're right, he came to play today, and Ben Bateman, you know what? He was up for the challenge, though.
Oh, he was more than up for the challenge. Let's do you want to jump right into the match?
You know, let's play around in the shallow end for a little bit. Do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we need to actually start off with that Ben Bateman adds a stipulation onto this match out of nowhere.
Yes.
He brings up the fact that he wants the movie release date sliced. And we're like, what? He's like, I want my face on it. And I thought, a brilliant heel tactic by Ben to get inside Scott Mantz's head just a little bit, if anything. And he had Thad run out with a damn contract and those patented, famous yellow folders, I guess Ken Knapsack pointed out. I didn't know they were that famous, but here they are. And Scott Mantz signs on the dotted line, and now not only is a match against Roca on the line,
Yeah.
But the movie release date, wheel slice is on the line. It's an added stipulation I did not see coming that was really fun to add to this match.
When you talk about the Roca stipulation real quick, because I want to get to the wheel slice, but you talk about the Roca thing. Winner meets John Roca. A lot of people wanted to see that third match in the trilogy with him and Scott Mantz. I really wanted to see him and Ben Bateman, because I think them in a singles capacity is going to be so classic. Were you leaning one way or another?
Not really, because I want both of these matches just as equally as much. If that's a word garbage there, but you got what I'm saying.
Just as we're going to see eventually, we're going to see Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz for the third time. I think we're going to eventually get John Roca and Scott Mantz.
Oh,
the stars didn't align this week. And obviously, if you watch this, you know who won, and we'll get to the breakdown here in a second. But I really like Ben Bateman, John Roca. But back to your wheel slice thing. Great tactic. Great stipulation to add. I loved it because we talked about how dominant Ben was and is in movie release dates. And just a great stipulation. Let's talk about...
By the way, Ben had nothing to lose on that wager, so it was like...
Absolutely not.
10 times more
absolutely
brilliant.
Not. Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Scott had everything to lose.
And
and he's just signing, and he's like, wait,
Right.
what am I signing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? That's a bad Scott Mantz, but it's kind of good.
It's pretty bad.
Anyway, the first question I wanted to talk about. The first question was the fourth installment. What was the name of the fourth installment, I believe, of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise?
Caribbean, you mean?
Caribbean. I mix it up. Sometimes I'm a caramel guy.
Really?
Sometimes I'm a caramel guy. Sometimes
I've always been caramel.
sometimes I'm a caramel. Sometimes I'm a caramel. Sometimes I'm a caramel. I like to mix it up.
I feel like when I get a lot older, I'll say caramel, but as I'm younger, I'll be caramel. I don't know. Is that
caramel is definitely an older.
Doesn't it sound older type of? Yeah.
A little bit more of like the 20s, 30s, 40s generation. They like to say things a little bit different, kind of maybe closer to the proper English. Caramel. You ever notice like people in like 1920s and 30s movies? They just sound way different than people in any other generation. And I've always wondered what that was from.
I think it's about that. It's all that rap music.
It's actually because they were taught how to speak in class, how to be on the radio, and it was a different kind of teaching method back then.
Wait, so everyone was like, we're always on radio, basically? That's the mentality?
it was TV speak. It was how you were taught and how to publicly communicate.
There you see.
So I looked into that.
You see?
Yeah, see?
Now you see. We're running on second base, you see?
There he goes, running third. Babe Ruth. There he goes, home run. Okay, sorry. Anyway, when we get to, I don't even know how the hell we got on that. How did we get on that? Anyway, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Apologies for the fans at home. First question. Fourth installment of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. What was the name of it? The answer was On Stranger Tides. A little bit of controversy, though, out of the gate. There was some questions as to if that was what Ben Bateman had written on his board, a Jane Fonda scenario almost. Right out of the gate, they ended up awarding him the point, and they moved right along. No challenge flag thrown by Scott Mantz. So maybe it was just poor penmanship, as Mark Ellis pointed out. But I thought that was interesting. It made me theorize and ponder on if there needs to be some sort of if they should write their answers with iPads as opposed to whiteboard and marker. I don't know. And then I was like, well, maybe they have to add a little extra time for that, for user error or something freezes. And then I'm like, well, that's probably not a good idea. And then maybe I'm just thinking, practice your penmanship. But some people, I have like terrible handwriting. I don't know if people can see that. I have terrible handwriting. So I feel like I would be a little afraid sometimes. Now, it's not John Roca, Jane Fonda handwriting, but I was thinking, does there need to be a way to eliminate the human handwriting element in the Schmoedown?
I don't think so, and I
don't know if it's a big enough problem to address. But it's happened now a couple of times in the season.
I was okay with them giving the point to Ben on this one, if only because he was the first person asked. and he said On Stranger Tides, and even though the penmanship wasn't the greatest, he still knew the answer because he gave the answer first. He was asked to give it first. Had he been asked second, then that's where you run into a sticky situation. Whereas, is he just saying that because he heard Scott Mantz say the right answer, or does he actually know the answer? By him going first, though, you can give some leniency, I think, on the penmanship. But if you're the second player to answer, I think that's when you really have to look at it and go, and even still, had his penmanship, had he been second with that what he wrote, I still would have given it to him because he did have the 3 separate on Stranger Tides, and it clearly he had, even though it was chicken scratch more or less, he's trying to beat the clock clearly.
Yeah,
so,
well, because you could tell he was like, wait, what is it? What is it? What is it? Oh, On Stranger Tides.
Mm-hmm.
And,
although what he did not do was hide the board right away, like some other people Roka has done in the past. Right, one of those. He did not do that. He kept it up there.
Yeah.
So
he was pretty confident in his answer, but we move along. What was the final score after round number 1?
They were all tied up at 7.
7-7?
Yeah.
7-7, all tied up. Ben Bateman had an opportunity to get a perfect round, fell short of it, but 7-7. Both really good rounds. I think this is probably like a great Scott Mantz first round, especially if you're used to him in teams. You're like, okay, yeah, Scott Mantz definitely came to play. This is such like poetic justice, if you will. Like round number 2, the favorite was Ben Bateman, so Scott Mantz. I think he elected for Scott Mantz to go first.
Yeah.
And Scott Mantz spins movie release dates.
Unreal, man. Unreal.
It was a stipulation. It ended up happening. Like, part of me was like, did they just keep spinning until he got
right.
it? Because it was just so perfect. It was so perfect that he got movie release dates and did, not shockingly to anybody, very good at it. I think he only missed, was it 1? Was it the
he went 3 or 4. Yeah.
And Ben Bateman didn't even pick up the steal for that one, so that was an obscure pick. But goes 3 for 4, great round. And I was like, wow, just like we talked about, even though I didn't know the stats for like 60-40, 55-45 for Spinner's Choice, when Ben Bateman comes up and gets Spinner's Choice and goes to Oscar movies, I was like, hold on to your butts.
Yeah, because Mantz is no slouch in Oscars either. He covers that stuff for a living.
Yeah, I know. This was like the 2 best case scenarios for both of them.
Oh, yeah.
It could have been reversed. Like, had it been Oscar movies for Mantz, movie release dates for Ben Bateman, we might have or probably would have seen the same outcome.
I think so, yeah.
Because I want to talk about one thing specifically when it came to the Oscar movies category. It was named the last film where Tom Cruise was nominated for Academy Award. I'm watching this. Mm-hmm. I say, I had to be like Captain Phillips, right? It had to be. And then when Ben Bateman says Captain Phillips, I'm like, okay. And then they say it's incorrect. I'm like, what? I was like, was it The Post? Was he nominated for The Post? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Was he? And was that what I think that's what Scott said. Didn't he say The Post?
I don't know. I can't recall what he said.
I can't recall what he said, but whatever he said was wrong.
Yeah.
And the answer was Castaway.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa.
I'm like, that's 2000. That's the year 2000. I know that movie release date. That was the year 2000. Wilson, FedEx. I love that movie. Robert Zemeckis. And then they both said, no, he was nominated for Captain Phillips.
Even Scott Mantz was like, no, I think Captain Phillips was right.
I think Captain Phillips was right.
Which Ben said. So it's like...
and I think everybody in the audience was like, yeah, it's definitely Captain Phillips. And then this is where I want to stop. Because obviously they came back and said it was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He was nominated for a Screen Actors Guild for Captain Phillips, but he was not nominated. And we talked about this before off camera, the 3 of us. I don't think we discussed it on camera, and if we did, my apologies. but there's something out there on the internet called the Mandela effect.
Oh, yeah.
And the Mandela effect, so for example, I'm going to play a game with you, the people listening and watching from home. Let's go to the movie Moonraker with James Bond. When they're on the spaceship and Jaws smiles and he shows his grill, his iron grill, and his lovely lady that he is courting with the glasses and pigtails smiles back. What does she have on her teeth? Did you answer braces? Because you're wrong. She didn't have anything on her teeth. But everybody swears. I want Chris Clark to weigh in on this.
Yeah.
Because I believe you asked Robert Meyer Burnett this same exact question, did you not? About the Moonraker thing. And I asked you this question, and you said she had braces.
I did. I asked actually Robert that. Yeah, and he thought the same thing too. It's that Mandela effect. I can't believe we're talking about this right now, but we are. Yeah.
Well, like some people, I think, some people think that Pikachu, I think, had like black on the back of his tail, but he didn't.
Some people think that the Bernstein Bears are the Bernstein Bears. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Bernstein Bears.
Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of interesting.
We can do a whole other show on.
We can do a whole other show. Go Google Mandela effect, but it's essentially where everyone knows something is 100% factual. I know this as a fact. And it's completely wrong. But mass amounts of people think that it happened. Like the name comes from, people thought in the 80s Nelson Mandela died. And there was this whole large group of people who swore Nelson Mandela had passed away in the 1980s, but he passed away like a few years ago. And that's where the name comes from. It's the Mandela effect. Go look it up and fall down that rabbit hole. But that's what this Captain Phillips thing was. That's what this Captain Phillips thing, everybody swore he was nominated for the Oscar. Ben Bateman, Scott Mantz, me, probably the both of you, and he was not nominated. It was so crazy that answer was wrong. I couldn't wait to talk about that. I swore up and down that it was Captain Phillips.
That's a good. I mean, yeah, this was a really interesting point in the match because, like you said, everyone just thought, and it was also super weird to see Scott Mantz kind of argue for the fact that Ben Bateman would have gotten the point. Then, it was like.
And these are two guys who specialize in Oscars.
I mean, Ben, real quick, too, Ben, he was pulling this other tactic. Speaking of tactics and mind games with Scott Mantz, he'd wait, take a sip, drain the clock, and then answer. Yeah. And then he'd be right. And he did this, for the first, he did this for the first question, and then he did it for this one. And I was like, Scott Mantz is like, this is all for show, and blah, blah, blah. So he knows the answer. And so when Ben Bateman then said Captain Phillips, you're like, oh, that's right. And then they're like, that is incorrect. You're like, what? He just did his thing where he's going to be right, and he drains the clock and all that. And now he's wrong? And, no, it was great.
It was crazy. So how did he end up doing in that round? What was the final score?
So, they both ended up scoring 6 on their individual turns on the Oscars and movie release dates. Yeah, so we're still tied up at 13 apiece.
That's why I thought this was just such a great match. You're tied after round 1. You're tied after round 2. It's all going to be decided in round number 3, and it's really who's going to make the mistake first. Who's
the bigger
going
mistake.
To get the first? Yeah. Who's going to make the bigger mistake? Yeah. Better way to phrase that, Frank. So. Round 3, break it down for me, Janisch. Give me the rundown. How did round 3 play out?
So we have to start out with Scott Mantz. He gets a 2000s question. Name the action film released in 2000 that stars Brad Pitt opposite Robert Redford. The answer is Spy Game, which I thought is kind of a little bit off the beaten path in terms of popular movies for those for Brad Pitt at least and Robert Redford. And then we got to go back to Ben Bateman. He gets Matthew McConaughey. And it's he plays a video store clerk who agrees to have his life filmed by a camera crew for a television show in what film? That was Ed TV, which I thought, again, not like the most popular McConaughey film.
Yeah.
I'm with but nonetheless, these were two
hard but not difficult. I mean, not hard but not easy.
And then goes back to Scott Mantz. It's the category of 80s, and it's Name the 80s movie starring Eric Stoltz about a teenager with a skull deformity attempting to live as a normal life as possible. That is Mask. Did you know that one? I
knew that
barely
one.
pulled that one out. Yeah,
I knew that one only from my limited Eric Stoltz knowledge due to
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Yes. And you know what though? I did say The Mask when I answered that, and I wondered if I would have been wrong.
You would have been, because there's a movie called The Mask with Jim Carrey. So.
But you know, some people say to use Back to the Future as an example. In the team match, I think Nick Scarpino was the one who said Back to the Future 2.
True. Yeah.
But it's Back to the Future
Part 2. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, where do you? I need a clear ruling on this. I need everyone to, because if I said Mask or The Mask,
well, it goes back to the whole argument of Room with Brie Larson and The Room, the Tommy Wiseau movie, right? So those are two clearly different movies. The Mask with Jim Carrey and and Just Mask, the one we're talking about here, two completely different movies.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you have to draw the line. The Back to the Future Part 2 thing, I think it's a little bit more lenient, but I suppose if this was like a title match and you wanted to challenge that, I think that's a great challenge to make. If you're supposed to be Part 2.
Schmoevillians out there, comment below. If someone answers Back to the Future 2, is it correct or incorrect?
Yeah.
And would you challenge? Answer that in the comments below. But I thought Mask, great pull. Continue, Frank.
Yeah. And so then we go to Ben Bateman, and he gets the category of War. And who plays Command Master Chief John James Ergale in the 1997 film G.I. Jane? Oof. That's a tough one, because
that's a 3B. That's a 3B right there.
3B, yeah. He gets it wrong, and now his back's against the wall. He has to answer the 5-pointer, or Scott's going to win.
It's over. Yeah.
And what does he get for the 5-pointer? He gets Oscars. And his question is one of the more difficult 5-pointers I think we've seen in recent memory, because this is asking a lot. The question was, in Oscars history, only 3 films have won the Big 5: Best Picture, Director, Actor, Actress, and Screenplay. He had to name 2 of the 3 films that did it. There's a lot to go through, although I think if you did know Oscars very well, this is something you should know. I believe I think it's still, I think, an interesting, tough question, because you could get mixed up with some of like the greatest films of all time, thinking that Shirley would have won this or won all 5 of these, this or that or the other. And he has to pull out 2. It was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Silence of the Lambs. Chris, do you know what the third one was? I don't know what the third one was, but I mean he gets 2 of them, and I mean even Scott Mantz would applaud that pull. That's a hell of a 5-pointer in quite some time.
No, he only answered 2. I was wondering what the other possible answer was. Yeah. I'm sure somebody will inform us. I was trying to figure it out. I was like, didn't Lord of the Rings win a bunch of Oscars? Didn't they win something? Yeah. I didn't know what the hell it was. But great pull by Ben Bateman to send it back to Scott Mantz. All the pressure's on the Mantz man. Will he keep his will slice? Will we get the trilogy?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, yeah, you're right. Roca 3 Mantz is on the line. The movie release date's wheel is on the line in this question. He gets fancy sci-fi, and in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, what English character, actor, and Harry Potter vet plays Professor Kirk, who takes in the Pevenese children? And I had no idea. Did we get this question
before?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Why do I feel like I remember this one? I don't know. We probably didn't. That Harry Potter alum was like, I was like, did we get that before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But this one's this is a pretty new one. But this is another tough question. I had no idea. I can't remember the answer to this one. And Scott Mantz unable to pull it, and Ben Bateman gets the date with Roca and his face on the slice.
So good.
Oh man.
So good. Ben Bateman also has a lot to say in his post-match interview, pretty much saying, no more show, no more glitz and glamour. I'm going to let Andrew Guy take that over. I'm here, and when you're going to hear from me, I'm going to be talking with trivia.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty adamant statement there by Ben Bateman. And I enjoy it. And you know what? I don't appreciate Mark Ellis's jab at Andrew Guy, saying he's a great performer, not a lot in the brain when it comes to trivia.
Yay.
I was like, what an ass.
Well, I mean, he just speaks the truth. I mean, you look at Andrew Guy's numbers. Look at his numbers.
You know what? Andrew Guy had been Bateman. Listen to Andrew Guy. They would have won the live event. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's a fair point.
That's all I'm saying. So he's not worthless there. They've won a team.
A broken clock is right twice a day. So.
Oh, God damn it, Janisch, don't give me that. God, what an awful poll by you. But what did you think overall? I think this is a candidate. It might not win, but it's a candidate for match of the year.
Oh, definitely a candidate. Absolutely, definitely a candidate for match of the year. This is a great way to end a doubleheader for the Friday matches. You got Kind of Funny and Funhaus. Then you get this match. It's a hell of a Friday in the Schmoedown. That's for damn sure.
What did you think of it, Chris?
I actually thought this. I felt like this is actually what you were talking about. This match was neck and neck the entire time. When you have a match that has, as you were saying, it's tied in round 1, it's tied in round 2, and it goes down to pretty much the last question, you can't ask for much. But in my opinion, I think there's a lot to beat. This might be surprising to you. I think Lon Harris versus Cody Hall is still my favorite match of the entire season.
That's a good...
Because
it was the first match. Yeah, you're right.
That was a dark horse. There was nothing, and Frank and I were in the room for that match, and the energy and the everybody rallying behind Cody Hall was a great match. I don't know if it's match of the year. It may be a dark horse. It might be if there's like a extended ballot. It could definitely be on there. But that was a fun match. But anything else that you wanted to say on this, Janisch?
We need to talk about Roca coming in.
Yes,
the post match
and lay it out for us.
And I love Ben Bateman's line. Here comes the cast of the bucket list, and it's Roca and Riley. I thought it was fantastic. And we haven't had a post match interview crash. I think in not like this. We haven't had a Roca crash in quite a while because back then we were getting these regularly from him. But it was a sight for sore eyes to see Roca crash an interview, and you know he's coming for Ben, and it's gonna be one hell of a match, man. I can't wait for it. This is gonna be, and also I did not know this was gonna be happening. This is a tournament qualifier match apparently.
Yeah,
this came out of so stipulations are quite the norm now for Ben Bateman, it seems.
Yeah, he seems like he can't get away from him. I'm excited to see it. Always have loved John Roca. Ben Bateman, I think, is a killer in teams and singles, as we saw him taking down Scott Mantz. Want to see more Scott Mantz in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. Definitely a presence you want there. So I think this was a great week of matches. I think it was culminated in one of the best matches this year. And I'm excited to see where this goes from here. Where's Inner Geekdom play out? Is corruption going to be the NWO like I theorized that it might be? I want to see that play out. I haven't heard back from Christian about it, but I hope that it does. And that's all I got for this week, guys. I think we can put a bow on this bad boy.
Yeah, and real quick, I just want to add again to that corruption NWO thing. As you look at the promo package for Collision, it ends on Kalinowski with this little corruption card thing. So
it can happen. I am holding out hope. Frank Janisch. Speaking of Frank Janisch, let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram at FrankieJ29, and stats at Schmoedown. Schmoedown stats. You can see on Twitter. You can do SD Rundown stats, and then the site, if you choose, is sites.google/ Wait, hold on. I know this one.
He didn't know it
because it's super easy to remember. It's sites.google.com/views/Schmoedown-stats-info. That may or may not be correct, but
I don't think that it's right. And I'm really glad.
Okay, make me look good, Chris.
Get a domain name, Janisch. Damn, I'm working on it. It's so easy. It's very easy to do. You can do it in like 45 seconds.
Okay.
Chris Clark, producer extraordinaire, let people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisClark8788. Those numbers mean nothing. You can find me on YouTube at Take Two Productions, where every Monday we do the the Schmoedown Summit for which is a bunch of us. We go through the show just like these guys do, and it's great and it's fun. And you can also find me on YouTube at No Man's Land Entertainment. Bada bing, bada boom.
And you can find me on all social media at Brad Gilmore. Make sure you go check out Booker T and Brad Gilmore Live in Hollywood, the new album available on all streaming sites. And we will be back next week here on the Schmoedown Rundown, brother.
I can't believe Chris plugged another Schmoedown show on our show. What this guy won't do for a check, I'm telling you. No, I'm just
Chris Clark.
He's savage. He's savage. He's savage.